Did Cobra Kai drop the best episode of the entire show in this second part of Season 6? Potentially. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I have got my review of Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2. The next 5 episodes in this final season are now streaming on Netflix, and I'm going to give you my spoiler-free thoughts, but be sure to stay tuned for my reaction to every single one of these episodes dropping throughout the weekend. I've reacted to every episode of Cobra Kai on my channel. I have a playlist that I'll link up above, so stay tuned over the coming days for my reaction to Ep 6 through 10 of Season 6. And be sure to hit that like button and comment your thoughts on this next part of Cobra Kai Season 6 down below, and subscribe and hit that notification bell to help reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. It would mean a lot. So when it comes to Cobra Kai Season 6, I enjoyed Part 1 for what it was. It was definitely the setup of the season, but it left me wanting so much more in a good way as we kickstart the Sekai Taikai, and who's with Cobra Kai? None other than Tory. We pick up right where we left off at the Sekai Taikai in this next season, and let's just cut to the chase. To me, the first episode of this next batch of episodes is maybe the weakest of the season, at least in Part 2. It was a bit of a slow start. We left off with so much momentum coming off the heels of Part 1, and then we kind of just took that momentum and came to a halt, and it was a bit frustrating for about 20 minutes of that episode, but it did win me over by the end, admittedly. I felt like that episode spent a lot of time rehashing conflict that we as the audience were already aware of. It's not like we waited a year or two between parts. It's only been a couple months from July to November, and to me, the first episode of Season 6 Part 2 really spent a lot of time reminding us, hey, this happened with Tory beforehand. This is what was going on with Robby and their relationship, and here's what happened with Sam. And then, by the way, Devin Lee feels a little bit of guilt for what she did to Kenny. It's like, we already saw all this go down a couple episodes ago. It's still the same season of TV, and so to me, there was some time wasted reestablishing conflict that we, again, as the audience, already were aware of. So we were kind of just treading in water instead of advancing the plot forward, to me. And something else that bothered me, too, I couldn't get over how stupid characters were being in that first episode in particular, almost out of character, how idiotic characters were being, like putting their rooms or hotel rooms at risk, just talking trash out of character. I was really like, wow, this is shocking. And it wasn't just the kids who were being dumb, the adults as well, specifically Chozen. Like, he's a character that I've come to admire over the, few seasons he's been in, but he's kind of become just this bumbling drunk idiot, and the goofiness with that character was really dialed up in that first episode. It was almost jarring. I was like, wow, this is not playing well for me, and it kind of took me out for a second. I was getting a little worried watching episode 6, I can't lie, but by the end, when the events of the Sekai Taikai actually begin, we were off to the races, and I felt a lot more confident, and sure enough, each episode just got better and better with Ep 7 through 10. There was just a bit of a rocky road start, in my opinion, in that first episode of this new part. Getting into the Sekai Taikai itself, I was concerned going in because I thought they were just going to focus on Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do, the two dojos that we as the audience have followed for various seasons now, when this is a world tournament. So in reality, these two teams, or dojos rather, wouldn't be the top dogs, and they did a good job of introducing a new threat pretty early on. The Iron Dragons are the big badass dojo in this tournament, and they have some competitors that make Quan, who was established as the big bad in Part 1, look like a chump. I'm talking about Axel mainly. That guy towers over anyone else in this entire tournament, and I wouldn't want to be caught in a one-on-one with him. Then you've got Zara, who has this whole dynamic with Tory. They're kind of rivals and have beef in every single episode. And then you've got this Sensei Wolf, who has his own demons, all right? We get a little bit of a backstory on him. He's not particularly kind to his students, as we would come to see. The Iron Dragons have some shady things going on behind the scenes, and watching that unfold over the course of these 5 episodes was one of my favorite aspects, because we had Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do, we got this new dojo, the Iron Dragons, and what's going on behind the scenes? Figuring that out was a fun time, I'll say that much. But the Sekai Taikai is this huge event we've been building to since the end of Season 5, and it's finally here, and I'm happy that they based this tournament in reality as much as they could with regard to Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai. They could have gone the route of making them these two unstoppable forces, but that would have been too unrealistic. The two dojos, Miyagi-Do in particular, faces a lot of adversity early on, which makes it easier to buy in and believe, because to think Miyagi-Do would just go wipe the floor with everybody at this world tournament at such a high level, globally speaking, it would just be ridiculous. But they face their fair share of adversity here. Getting into the performances here, everyone's great, but there's one or two that really stood out to me. In part 1 of season 6, I highlighted Peyton List, who plays Tory. She went to a level I hadn't seen prior playing this character. In part 2, I gotta shine a light on Xolo Maridueña. The man crushes it. Miguel as a character is really struggling this season, coming to terms with the fact that he didn't win the role of captain for Sekai Taikai, so you get to see a bit of jealousy, a bit of a darker side to him when it comes to his relationship with Robby and having to come to terms with that. So he's already dealing with some Miyagi-Do drama and beef that may or may not arise about who should be the rightful captain of Miyagi-Do, but you combine that with some heavy-hitting emotional scenarios that Miguel's sort of thrust into, and man, does Xolo have to get after it, and he really does. There are a few moments that gave me full-body chills. He can bring the tears when he needs to, I won't say much more, but scene after scene, episode after episode, Miguel had more to do. I felt like he was a bit sidelined in part 1, and he had a lot meatier of a role here as a character, which allowed for Xolo to really shine and get after it as an actor. And the same can be said, in my opinion, for William Zabka. He's just become Gianni, you know, I feel like the two are synonymous, the actor and the character. But in this season, he has to get after it as well, and there are some moments where it's genuinely heartbreaking and you feel for this character. I really do think he might have delivered his best performance. Part 2 also manages to find time with characters off the mat. I'm all in for them just having every episode be fully a Sekai Taikai event, but I understand that that can't be the case. You still have to progress these character arcs and move the plot forward outside of the tournament, and to me, they did a good job finding time with characters off the mat. Again, there's some relationship drama between Robby and Tory, friendship drama between Sam and Tory, and even drama not at the Sekai Taikai, all the way back in the States. There's a lot going on that's not just at the Sekai Taikai, and again, they're still planting those seeds, laying the foundations for how they're going to end this show in part 3. There are some loose ends that'll need to be tied up, and I'm very interested to see where they stick that landing. Now, with each passing season, Cobra Kai's kind of gotten more and more ridiculous, but to me, it's always self-aware of that, and that's nothing new here. There is an absurd subplot involving Daniel this season that is really ridiculous. I'm just going to come right out and say it. But it doesn't really shock me, because if you look back at the past 3 or 4 seasons of the show, there have been things just as crazy, you know? If we look back, there was a moment in time where Robby was on the run from the law, okay? Anything's possible. We went to Mexico in season 5, and we saw Miguel's father was involved with some shady things. A lot of crazy stuff that's a bit outlandish has happened in Cobra Kai, so it's not like they went outside of the realm of believability the show's established in this next part. I'm specifically referring to a subplot with Daniel that you'll see in the 2nd episode, or Ep 7, I should say. And I gotta talk about the fights. We're at Sekai Taikai. There are some really well choreographed fight scenes here, and I loved how the events weren't just your run-of-the-mill one-on-one fights. I feel like they structured the tournament in a way that was engaging and fresh, and again, didn't feel repetitive like, say, the All Valley tournaments we've already seen in the show. There are challenges as a team, you have to collect points in the aggregate, it's fresh, it's new, it's exciting, and it allows, like I said, for Miyagi-Do and all the other dojos to really face adversity. We can see them not win every challenge, not have someone perform their best every time they hit the mat, but it's all right because it's this one big tournament. There's a real emphasis on the team aspect of it all. And as always, the episodes are about 38 minutes long, with the finale being closer to 45 minutes, and they fly by. The whole thing, I believe, is like 3 hours and 17 minutes, and it's so well paced. But we've got to talk about that finale. I said it up front, I teased it, I'm gonna say it. It's one of the best episodes the show has put out. It's one of those cases where like the first 20 or so minutes of the episode are really good, but then you get into the back half and it's like, this is just another level of TV, and it's comparable to some of the other episodes of Cobra Kai. It's comparable to like season 2's finale or season 4 or 3's finale. Like a lot of the finales of Cobra Kai are some of the best episodes we've gotten, and I would say this is up there. It's in the conversation. We get some insane fights at Sekai Taikai. There are some moments between characters who have never really had a moment together, not only in that finale, but in all the episodes. There are some moments in that finale that had my jaw on the floor. I was cheering. I can't say too much. I'll have my reaction to it, obviously, dropping soon on the channel, but it really did floor me, and it had a gutsy final moment, a big time cliffhanger. Like, I thought the cliffhanger of part 1 was big. This one says, hold my beer. It's a cliffhanger for the books, and I wish that I could watch the rest of the show right now. That's my only concern, is like, how are they going to stick the landing? I'm more so curious than anything, because there's only 5 episodes of the show left, and I feel like there's a lot to resolve still. So I'm sitting here thinking maybe we should have had like one more episode in part 2 to kind of round out this second part as its own distinct mini season, because I felt like with Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 1, it did feel like its own mini season, and I remember one of the creators on Twitter said, each part functions as its own mini season. But here, I feel like it's a little incomplete if we're reviewing it through that lens. Big picture, patience is key. I'm sure we'll get to see the resolution of everything, and they'll stick the landing just fine, and hopefully it's a wonderful way to, send Cobra Kai off into the sunset. But in this moment right now, I'm like, damn, I wish they could have just dropped all 15 episodes at once, and it's a bummer we can't see what happens next yet. But overall, Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2 was a hit for me. I liked Part 1. I think this is a step up from that. Again, if you're a fan of Cobra Kai and you haven't fallen off with it in Seasons 4 or 5 when things get a bit grander and, more out there, cheesy, if you will, then you should be on board for what happens in Season 6 Part 2. Some of it, again, is ridiculous, but it's nothing new because we've seen so many absurd things already happen in this show that I'm kind of just all in to see whatever they commit to. The drama's there, both on and off the mat. We've got some insane fight scenes, the performances are great, and I gotta mention that score. Whew, chill-inducing stuff multiple times. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this next part of the season, and I can't wait to see where they land this thing in 2025. Hopefully we get a release date for that soon. My guess would be January to February. I don't think we'll have to wait as long for Part 3 as we did between Parts 1 and 2, but regardless, I gotta see how they stick the landing, because I'm in right now, but with only 5 eps left, I'm very curious, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm also anxious. I just hope they get this thing right. But that does it for my review of Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2. Let me know your thoughts on these 5 eps in the comments down below, and hit that like button, and of course, stay tuned for my reaction to all 5 of these episodes dropping this week on the channel. Thank you guys, as always, for watching, and until next time, Cobra Kai never dies.